Hello, welcome to MSSP 629 Research and Evaluation Design. This is video 8, Logic Models. As an outcome of watching today's video, you should have expanded knowledge on the following. Please take a moment to look at today's outcomes. My hope is, as a result of watching today's video, you'll have some guidance on how to research specific programs that may be of interest to you. So what is a logic model? As you learned from the readings, a logic model is a depiction of a program showing what a program is intended to do, what it is intended to accomplish, and the desired outcomes of a program. One of the best things I've learned in my professional career related to logic models is this definition around if-then relationships. And what that assumes is that if you do a specific activity with a specific group of people, then you'll expect to see certain outcomes. So keeping that phrase in mind, if-then, is centrally important when you think about logic models. So many people have referred to logic models as a logical framework, a visualization of a theory of change. Some have called it a program matrix. The definition, or the term rather, that you use is less important. Knowing what a logic model is, however, is very important. And this is utilized by funders, managers, and evaluators to make sure that there's a common understanding around what a program is intended to do. Without knowing what a program is intended to do, it's very difficult to evaluate the effectiveness of a program. So logic models are incredibly important to make sure that both the evaluator and the team that is being evaluated, or the program that is being evaluated, are on the same page. So here is a logic model framework that you can find online with a simple Google search. You can type in Google and do program evaluation and logic model, and you'll be able to see in the images that come up several frameworks that are utilized by evaluators. This happens to be one that I personally like reviewing because I think it breaks down each of the sections and components of a logic model in a fairly straightforward manner. So let's go ahead and start at this first section. You can see my cursor here. I'll be highlighting where I am relative to the logic model components with this cursor. So on this far left-hand side, you see the situation. This is where you would put the description of why this program came to be. So what social problem was trying to be addressed by this program? What were the political, societal, and environmental factors that yielded this program coming into be? Which stakeholders may have been leveraged, community organizations and other partners, to create the program? So this is really a program at its inception, so why the program came to be. Then if you look to the right of situations, you'll see the term priorities. This is where you would find description of the mission, the vision, certain values or philosophies that are found in the program. So what is the program intended to do? What is its mission and vision? That's where you would find description of the priorities. Then you move to the second major section of the program evaluation. The second component is inputs. This is where you're thinking about who is actually delivering a program. So where is a program investing its resources in the capital that will implement the program? So who are the staff, the volunteers? What equipment or materials may be utilized, technology? What research base is invested in to make sure that the program is implementing best practices found in research? So all of the things that go into a program in its service delivery model and rationale behind it are found in the inputs. The activities found here within the outputs component of the logic model begin to describe what those people or resources are doing. So while a staff member is considered an input, the actual things that they do, the verbs, think about the actions that those staff take, are found in the activities, the outputs. So a program may deliver services related to workshops, meetings. They may provide more tangible resources like curriculum and program resources. They may provide training or counseling. They may work with the media to make sure that there's a lot of communication around their program offerings. All of those types of activities are found in outputs. As we move over to the right, you'll see participation is also included in the outputs because this describes the target population. You've seen that term quite a bit in the readings. The target population are the intended participants of a program. So who are the clients? Who are the customers of a program? Those would be listed here under the outputs, under participation. And then the final section within this particular sample, this particular visualization of a logic model, are the outcomes. The outcomes describe the short-term, mid-term, and long-term outcomes and intended outcomes of a program. So let's think back to that phrase, if then. Let's walk through this logic model. If staff are to provide workshops to a particular group of clients, this is what we would expect to see as a short-term outcome. A participant who attends that workshop should have increased learning, awareness, knowledge, improved attitudes or skills in a certain area, as an example. Let's do that again through an if-then statement. If staff are delivering training to these customers, we would expect to see some midterm outcomes in their actions. Their actions related to their behaviors, practices, decision-making, and potentially policies within a specific training area. So you can go through that process through the logic model. As you can see, the framework is really coming together. If you start on the far left-hand side, you'll see that this program was put into place to address a certain problem. The program invests in staff and human capital to implement certain activities with a targeted population with goals related to short-term, medium-term, and long-term outcomes. I want to draw your attention to one more component within the outcomes that I think is important. Short-term outcomes are typically related to more learning-related activities, whereas medium-term outcomes, you're thinking about the action, and then ultimate long-term outcomes relate to conditions. You know that there can't be an immediate change sometimes within a person or an organization or a community after 1 or 2 days. Sometimes these long-term changes in society from a social, economic, civic, and environmental perspective take some time. So that's why you see a lot of those items and conditions under the long-term outcomes, because typically those are longer term, long-range goals that a program may have in place. I want to direct your attention to some of the assumptions here and external factors and what those refer to. Let's think about the assumptions. The assumptions are that there may be specific staff in place to implement these workshops. What happens if suddenly funding is cut in half and you don't have as many staff or resources to implement the activities designed in a program? Well, the likelihood of achieving the desired outcomes of that program may be decreased. So the assumptions are that given this logic model, there's a framework that we would assume is in place to achieve the desired outcomes. If there's any reduction in staff or reduction in the number of workshops or potentially some recidivism, maybe participants aren't staying within the entire duration of a program, those types of mediating factors influence the potential to achieve certain outcomes. When we also think about external factors, there may be some external factors that aren't included within a logic model framework that also could impact the outcomes. These are things sometimes that are outside the control, outside of our control. So there may be things happening in society that are changing people's awareness of and behaviors that go outside of the control of a program. And we'll talk a little bit about that during class. But here, this logic model provides a visualization of how a logic model could be portrayed for a particular program. So I want you to think about some planning questions here related to a program that you're interested in. I want you to research that program using these guiding questions. When you think through the components of the logic model that we just reviewed, what are some things that you can learn about a program of interest to you? So take these components here listed on the left-hand side and the guiding questions listed on the right and tackle them as you research a program online that may be of interest to you. One tip is that if you're finding it difficult to answer these guiding questions, you may need to look for a different program. You want to select a program that you have enough information that you would be able to describe it in a logic model, because that is what the purpose of your assignment is. What you have to describe a program and create a logic model. So you want to make sure that the program that you ultimately select, you're able to answer these questions. So let's take some time now to consider the planning questions on the previous slide. Identify a program you're interested in learning more about. Research this program and identify the answers to as many questions, ultimately all of the questions at some point, using the document that's displayed here. It's found within this week's module. So please go ahead and download the Word document, the Video 8 accompanying document, and I've listed all of the guiding questions there. Please be prepared to discuss your responses at our next synchronous learning session. Please be sure to reach out to me or Karin if you have any questions about filling out this Video 8 accompanying document or researching any programs. So let's do a quick review. This is a flowchart. It's a depiction of a program showing what the program will do and what it is to accomplish. It's a series of if-then relationships that, if implemented as intended, will lead to the desired outcomes. And it's a helpful visual to know where you are going and how you will know if you succeeded. Ultimately, these are all characteristics of what we call a logic model. Please be sure to reach out if you have any questions about today's video. I'm happy to help.